Amy Thurman back again with 100 Days, 100 Emotions. Today we're on day 45 and it's about my light is falling over. Whoops, this almost fell off. It's live, y'all, right? It's live here. Today we're talking about doubt. Oh, if you have seen any of these or would like to catch the others, it's hashtag 100 Days, 100 Emotions. That's the number 100, streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So you can go check those out there. I would like to remind you that the purpose of these is to help us understand that we are human, we have emotions, that they're completely normal, and that they can teach us something, that we can learn from our emotions. And I want us to know how normal it is for us to feel them and how we can learn from them or learn to deal with them. If you are interested in being a special guest on this series, I would love to plug you in. We can find an emotion that works for you. Either send me a message or comment or let me know somehow and I will get you plugged in. Okay, let's get into this today talking about doubt. I can't wait for you to meet my special guest today. This is my friend Rachel. Rachel, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome, Amy. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Of course, I'm really excited for what you have to share with us today. I have chatted with Rachel a couple times and oh my goodness, I feel like you're in for a treat today. I don't ask, and you have probably, if you've seen these before, I don't ask them to tell me what they're going to share beforehand because I want to be in the moment. I want to be present when they're sharing it. And so I'm going to be right here with you to hear what Rachel has to share with us. But I know it's going to be so, so good. So let's start with the text talking about doubt today. And it says that doubt is a state of uncertainty, often accompanied by feelings of hesitancy or skepticism. Been there. It's a natural human emotion that arises when you're unsure about the truth of a belief or decision. And so I feel like doubt is one of those things that some people kind of live in that some people, if you have been through a lot in your life, then you tend to doubt a lot of things, but that other people have learned to work through it and let doubt work for them. And so I feel like there's a whole gamut here that doubt encompasses. And so I'm so excited to hear what you have to share with us today about doubt and what it has taught you, Rachel.
Oh, thank you, Amy. I really appreciate it. No, doubt is actually a beautiful emotion. We think of it in a negative way, but it's actually a warning system. It's a
Yes.
warning system, and we all experience it. I love that you share that all these emotions are perfectly human. They're perfectly normal to experience them at different times. And so and in my role, and we'll talk about that later, but in my role, one of the things I talk to my clients about is going into the doubt. Don't shy away from it. If you're having self-doubt, we need to get to the origin of that self-doubt. And is it a healthy origin or is it an unhealthy origin? So that we can separate fact from fiction. The stories we tell ourselves, get to the truths behind that. And so that's been a big part of what I do in my career and in really experiencing it myself. I had to kind of learn all about doubt through a pretty dark period of my life. And during that dark period, you start questioning, am I capable of doing certain things? Am I worth certain things? Do I have value to the world? And one of the things that I learned is sometimes you just need that one nugget to hold on to pull yourself out, because only you can pull yourself out. And that's the misnomer. I think people think if I'm having doubts, I go to my friends and they're going to teach me or show me where my thought process is not rational. But that's not always the case. It's up to you to really to look at that, have some self-reflection and separate, if this is a story I'm telling myself that's based on fiction, or is this really a fact? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So one of the things too that I see oftentimes in doubt is it's oriented around fear. So we're fearful of maybe a decision we're going to make, or we're fearful of the outcome of that. So one of the ways that you can plow through doubt is to ask yourself, yeah, what if that happens? What if? Okay, let's play out the scenarios. Scenario number one, if I make this decision, this could happen, that could happen, and roll through each one of those decisions. Another thing to look at is really understanding where's that doubt coming from. And one of the things that I don't think we as humans really understand, that oftentimes our self-doubt is rooted into our childhood and things that happen in childhood and voices we heard as a child. So if you think about it, if you went to school, Amy, and you're in the 3rd grade and someone said you're not really good at math because you made a bad grade on a math test, you might replay that in your mind over and over. And as an adult, you start thinking, I can't do math. Math is not my thing. I'm not good at it. When it may have nothing to do about your skills, it was your preparedness for that exam in the 3rd grade. Does that make sense? And
Right.
so it becomes more about, okay, maybe I didn't do so good on that math test, so I need to prepare more. I need to find tools and resources to help me. And it's not that I'm bad at math, it's just I need to be better prepared to understand these concepts I'm going to be tested on. So I see that a lot. I see it too in jobs. Oftentimes people will get passed over for a promotion or a job and they start beating themselves up saying, I'm not, smart enough, whatever, I'm not capable enough, you fill in the blank. And the reality of it is, and this is what I tell people, that rejection is protection and it's redirection.
I love that. Oh, so good.
Thank
Yes.
you. So I'll say it again. So for the
Yes.
audience, rejection is protection and it's redirection. And why does that matter? Because rejection's protecting us from going down a path that we're not supposed to go down. And it's actually forcing us to look at redirecting our energies and efforts into something else that we're better suited for. And so, when people start measuring their worth based on third-party references, that's when you get in dangerous territory. So doubt really needs to be a self-reflective thing that you ask yourself, what am I fearing? What am I scared of? What if I do make the wrong decision? In the words of Wayne Gretzky, I love this phrase. He says, you basically miss 100% of the shots you don't take in life. So take the shot, be smart about it, but take the shot. And if you fail, that's okay. Failure is also a part of the human experience, and it's how we grow and it's how we learn. So actually inviting doubt into the equation is not a bad thing. Rolling through it and understanding what it does. Now, biochemically, it can do some things to the neurotransmitters in our brain. And so when we have doubt, which can be oriented around fear, it can create and really antagonize our sympathetic nerve system, which is our fight or flight system. And so we want to counterbalance that with the parasympathetic, which is basically our rest and digest when we're not in that fight or flight mode. And so in order to do that, it's really an exercise you can do with yourself. You can look in the mirror. You can ask yourself, what am I fearful of? What are the stories I'm telling myself? Let's go through all of those. Why do I think I'm not worthy of making this decision or that activity or that job or whatever it may be? And going through a series of questions. Then you turn it into a positive. Well, why not? I'm perfectly capable. I've grown and I've developed the skills to do this particular job. I have been with the company. I've been loyal. I've positioned myself. What else do I need to do to position myself favorably for that job interview if that's what I need to do to get that job? So it's about taking all of those doubts and then saying, what do I need to do? So you turn it into a positive. What do I need to do to be successful at that? And then if you fail at that point, that's okay. Embrace it, because it means there's something else you're supposed to be doing. And so let's figure out what that thing is and not get wrapped around the axle on the rejection we feel based on that decision that we made.
Yes, that it reminds me of, like, most of the time I feel like when we feel doubt, it's not really about us. Like, it's because of the actions of someone else. And the actions of someone else does not always have to do with us. Like, there's more to the story. There's a bigger picture out there that we don't know, like not being accepted for a job. There's more to the story. It's not just because you're worthless. There's more to the story that we don't know about. And exactly what you said, this is what I say all the time, that through all of these emotions, we have to continue to tell ourselves what we know to be true, that I am trained in this. I know how to do this. It's not about me. There's more to the story. And so I feel like that's such a key with everything in life, that finding out what we know to be true and continuing to repeat that to ourselves. That's how I stay grounded. That's how I stay in this, be able to move through a lot of things, is I just stay in this mindset where I know what is true for myself. And I don't let the expectations and responses of others, break that barrier down. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's that third party reference that so many people live by. And 90% of the time, it's not about you. When things are happening with other people, we love, and this is really about self and about our experiences. So we anchor everything around our own experiences. So, Amy, you've had different experiences than me. You've had different life experiences, different educational experiences. And so you'll anchor things around what you know to be true. I will do the same. And those could be different. But then that's where the embedded stories we tell ourselves start coming out. So you might tell yourself a set of stories that, let's say, for example, we had plans tonight to go to dinner and I canceled those plans. You might think, well, why did she cancel? That was rude. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe she doesn't like me, or she likes somebody else better and she's going to dinner with somebody else. Or maybe I said something wrong to her and now she's mad at me and she won't tell me. All these things. So you see all that energy that's expended on that versus you coming to me and saying, I understand we need to cancel dinner. Would you like to reschedule it? Is there something else we can do? And then ask the question, if you're having some doubts about our friendship or the intention of my cancel, ask the question and let's have an honest conversation. We shy away from asking questions sometimes when we have doubts because we're fearful of the answer.
Yes.
And when you want to know the answer, if I was upset with you, first of all, I'd hope that I would be mature enough to tell you I was upset and I didn't want to go to dinner and why I was upset. But not everybody can do that or feels comfortable doing that. But wouldn't you want to know that? Because you'll probably spend way more energy figuring out what's wrong and guessing without asking and finding out upfront.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so true. And for some reason, it reminds me of the show This Is Us. I don't know if those of you watching have watched that, but Randall and his wife would play the worst case scenario game where they would just say, they would try to outdo each other on, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And, grow it so huge to what is the worst thing that can happen. And then they end up turning it around to, I'm thankful that we are where we are now and that we're not in that's not happening, that where we are now. And so it becomes a source of gratitude instead of a source of doubt. But I feel like the mind kind of needs that, like it needs to play out those scenarios to kind of just get that out. And then you can come back to, okay, but I'm grateful that I'm where I am now. And so I really, I like that. At first I was like, what is happening? But the more I thought about it, the more I understood that it's a source of gratitude.
Mm-hmm. And playing out the scenarios is important. Where it can get really difficult for some is when they are stuck in the scenarios. They are stuck to one doctrine. They are stuck to one belief. And so, playing out those scenarios with someone you trust, even talking them out with someone you trust, but eventually recognizing that very rarely is any of this catastrophic.
Right.
And you might make a wrong decision. Well, I make wrong decisions every day. That's part of life, but I don't beat myself up. And that's another thing is if you doubted yourself and then you made a decision and it was the wrong decision, don't beat yourself up. Give yourself grace and compassion and say, what was there to learn from this situation? I remember when I was in my early 20s and when I heard a noise in my car, I would just freak out. It had to be a broken axle. Because I didn't know anything about how cars work, right? So I didn't realize if it was a broken axle, I probably wouldn't be able to drive at 50 miles an hour, right? But in my own 22, 23-year-old head, somehow it was something catastrophic and the car was going to break down and leave me on the side of the road and whatnot. And so I had to kind of sit back and say, okay, what if that's happening? Okay, well, first of all, let's find out when you have that noise, let's find out from someone who knows how a car works, what may be going on with the car. And before you make it into a $10,000 repair job, let's, consult with someone that actually understands it. Well, I found myself spending, an inordinate amount of time worried about this car. And so I had to go back to where was that doubt and where was that fear oriented around? And it was my fear of being stuck somewhere. So it was really about being stuck somewhere. So then you start addressing that fear. Okay, well, if you're stuck somewhere, what's the worst thing that's got to be? You have to get a hotel, you have to stay somewhere, you have to call a friend, whatever, you have to have it towed, whatever. So once you go through all of those things, you get a little more comfortable. Then, of course, I learned more about how cars work to realize that that wasn't a real possibility, what I was manufacturing on our mind. But as humans, we love to go to the negative. And we do that to protect ourselves. We think that if I go to the worst case scenario and I go to, kind of the really the bad part of anything we're doubting, if I allow myself to go to that, it protects me. And really and truly, the best protection you can give yourself is analyze it, look at it from these different perspectives, but look at the orientation around it. Could it be that your parents told you that? Could it be that you learned that from a teacher, like the math? You're not good at math, I don't know. In third grade, I don't know if someone's really good at math or not. At that point,
Right.
you're young, right?
Exactly.
So that's my advice: is break it down, but you recognize the origin of this, and feel that origin, that piece. And Joseph Campbell is the godfather of mythology, and he has great work out there. And one of the things he talks about is go into the cave you fear the most, for it holds the treasure you seek. So going into the cavern to heal those pieces is the treasure that you're looking for.
And I think that's the point that we need to get across today, is because what I'm feeling right now is that a lot of people feel doubt. And like you said, it's self-blame, it's worthless, but we need to be willing to understand that means there's a message there for you. Don't take it at surface value. Just because what you're feeling and sensing and thinking, that doesn't mean that's what's happening. Exactly what you said, that there's more to it, that it's polish the mirror, exactly what we're talking about here today. Go inside, figure out, where is that surfacing from? Where is it originating? What is it about? And you may not be comfortable doing that. I know a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that because they don't want to see what's there. They don't want to allow things to surface that they're not comfortable with surfacing. But I think that's the first step, is recognizing that that's going to be what it takes to get past this doubt, is realizing that it's coming from a source, and you got to figure out what that source is. And it may be going into that cave, the darkest cave, to figure out what the treasure is that lies there. And so this is so good. I love this so much. Like, you're just talking and my heart is going, yep. Like, you and I resonate on so many different things. Like, it's amazing to find people like this who you resonate with so deeply and can just understand, like, everything you're saying. It's clicking, I'm getting it. And I hope for those of you watching that it's clicking for you too. I know Rachel has a couple things that she does. You have some clients that you work with. You also have, well, why don't you just go ahead and share with them what you do, and a little bit about how they can get a hold of you if they would like to work with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. So I am the CEO of Evolve and Transform, which is my private practice coaching company. So I actually work with individuals on finding meaning and purpose. Oftentimes that orients around vocation. It doesn't have to, but we do some assessments, personality assessments, communication styles, looking at strengths, because the goal is, if you align your strengths and your capabilities with your passion, that's purpose. So if you can find that sweet spot, and I'll say that again, where your basically capabilities, whether it's the capabilities you're born with or you've learned through birthdays, whatever it may be, where those intersect with what you're passionate about, that intersection point is purpose. So I spend a lot of time with my private practice clients doing that. I'm also the CEO of Healing Springs Ranch, which is a residential treatment facility for adults that centers around trauma, addiction, and mental health. And we also do that same work in our treatment facility, because oftentimes when you're lacking purpose or you're feeling doubtful about yourself, different things based on childhood trauma and inability to process these emotions that you're featuring over the 100 days can lead people into some dark paths of addiction and compulsive behaviors. So that's another thing I would stress too, when you're feeling some of these emotions. And this is why I love the work that you're doing, because if you don't work through these emotions in a healthy way and recognize we all have them, it can lead you into some areas that might be difficult for you to get out of, or could, be dangerous waters for you.
Absolutely. So, where is your on-site facility?
It's in Tioga, Texas. So I jokingly say it's North Texas or South Oklahoma, however you want to think about it.
Okay.
Technically has a TX in the address, but it's about an hour just south of the Oklahoma border, northeast of Denton, Texas, if people are familiar with that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so I'm assuming you have people from all over the US that come there?
All over the world. So
Wow.
we're the only treatment facility I'm aware of that has the type of program that we do where we concurrently treat the trauma, addiction, and the mental health while working on purpose and helping people understand healthy emotions, unhealthy emotions, working on their childhood trauma and processing all of the stored emotions around that trauma. Our clients spend an average of 43 days at our facility. And I'll tell you, that's one of the most rewarding parts of my life. And I had a lot of doubt about opening this business because a lot of people thought I was undertaking a just undertaking something that was going to be too gigantic. And there was somewhere in me, and maybe it's faith. So you talk about faith. Faith's not the opposite of doubt, but oftentimes people match those two up. And faith for me was about having conviction that I knew that I was using my skills and talents and capabilities. And I had a real calling because of a personal situation I went through with a family member that I knew we needed to do something different. I didn't want to sit around and complain. It was about, if you're going to complain, get out there and do something to fix it. And so as I had these doubts, one of the things, and this is the mantra I kept saying, which, failure is an option, but in my mind at the time was failure is not an option. And somewhere in this, I felt faith from God, faith from myself, that I was doing the right thing, even in spite of the obstacles and challenges that were hitting me. So I kept persevering. So, don't listen to what other people say. If you feel very strong conviction that you feel called to do something, there's some yearning, something going on subconsciously and consciously that's pulling you in that direction. And I had to eliminate that self-doubt by counterbalancing it by saying, okay, what is true? Okay, it's true I've not been in this industry, but it's false that I've never run a business, It's true that I'm going to have to go raise a lot of money to launch this endeavor, but it's false thinking I don't know how to do it. You see what I'm saying? So I went through the truths and the falses so that I could dispel all of the doubts that I was having and that others were casting on me.
I love that so much because it's so true that when there's something stirring inside you, like it's literally stirring in there, you have to do it or you're not going to be able to rest. That's exactly what this series came about because it stirred inside me. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it or how it's going to go, but we're just going to do it. And yes, those are some of I call them gold ideas or gold moments where it's just you're inspired and it's just you're supposed to make it happen. And so just like Rachel said, if you have that stirring inside of you, just take the first step. Figure out how to make it work for you and do it. The rest will work itself out. That's exactly what's happening in my world. And I know that that's what happened with you, Rachel. I do want to pop up this question for those of you watching. If you would like to join in our conversation, share with us if you trust your doubts. Like we talked about this in depth already, but I would like to know if you trust your doubts or if you allow your doubts to consume you and to take you along a path that maybe you don't want to be on. Or have you gotten to the place where you've learning to trust those and figure out, okay, it's sending me a message. I need to listen to that and figure out what to do with it next. Okay, so if you have watched these before, you know that I have an AI image generator that I use to create an image that represents the emotion of the day. And so today's is about doubt. I'm going to pop this image on the screen. I will full screen it so we can see it better. And then let's talk about what we see in this image. It always amazes me how just looking at the image, I'm like, what is this? But when you look at it through the lens of the emotion, you can always find something. Like pictures speak beyond words. I learned so much from looking at these pictures. So I'm eager to see what you find in this image here, Rachel. Let's see. This is the one that it created for doubt. and there's so much happening here. Like it's very, very busy. Is there anything that jumps out at you that would represent doubt?
I think because there's no right or wrong answer, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Right.
think, doubt could be centered around whether you like that image or not. You know, it's colorful, it's vibrant. There are people that like more subdued colors. So I think the doubt would be if I had created this is whether or not people would like my art or like this image or the vibrance of it.
Yeah. Ooh, that's so good. What draws me to it is you can see in the middle there's kind of a white section that looks like it's kind of in the background, and then there's all this kind of exploding color. It's almost like I'm drawn to that white section, but it's covered up by all of this other chaos. And that I feel like that's what doubt can do, is that I want to go that direction where that white part is, but it's being covered up by all this chaos. And so I have to manage this chaos first. I've got to figure out where this doubt's coming from before I can get to that place that I want to be. And so that's what kind of jumps out at me from this image. If those of you watching have other interpretations, I would love for you to share those. Because like I said, I learned so much from these images just by looking at them and seeing them from other people's perspective, because my brain struggles a little bit with creativity. So I love learning in that way. So,
One thing
okay.
on that,
Yeah.
Amy,
Go
too,
ahead.
is I would say that art was ambiguous. There was kind of, it leaned into some shapes, but you couldn't quite make them out. It was ambiguous where those colors were coming from, or how do you get to the point you're talking about. And I would say that ambiguity is a good thing to sit with, but as humans, we don't like it. We want an answer. And sometimes the answer is found in sitting with the ambiguity.
Like my brain exploded just a little bit when you said that, because it's so true. Like I find that in my own life, like I'm left brained. Like give me all the facts, give me all the details, let me check it off the list, let me organize everything. But throw ambiguity at me and it just like I almost don't know what to do with it. Like that's one of the reasons I struggle with creativity, is because like my brain doesn't know what to do with it. But it's exactly what you said, that we have to sit with it for a little bit and just let it be. Like we try to force things to be the way we want them to be, but sometimes we have to just sit with them and allow them to be what they are, and eventually they become what they're supposed to be in our lives. But we don't take the time to sit with it and let it be, and so we end up forcing something that maybe is not supposed to be, because we're not used to being able to deal with ambiguity like that. So that's so good.
Well,
Oh
I
my
challenge
goodness.
you on that statement you made that you're not creative. I would 100% disagree with that. You know why? Look what you're doing. This is a very creative way to reach people, to bring valuable content. You've put together a very organized business. You have done so much work around that in spite of some of the setbacks and challenges that you've had. And I would say that this is highly creative, and I admire the work that you're doing very much. So I challenge you, creativity, define creativity. It's a broad definition.
That's so true. Oh, thank you so much for your kind words. That touches my heart so deeply. Oh, thank you so much. It is true. Creativity is different to different people, and I need to open that box a little bit, that window a little bit there. So my brain is still exploding a little bit. So I'm trying to process it all. Thank you so much for being here, Rachel. I have enjoyed this so much. I hope that you watching have learned something today from Rachel and the techniques that she has shared with you. If you would like to get in touch with her, let's see, I popped that up. Let me put this up here again. Why is it not? There we go. 2 websites. You have 2 websites because you do so many things. So you have the evolveandtransform.me, and that's your, client coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Healing Springs Ranch is your physical picture there. So
So
reach her there. I will also tag you in the description of this live so that they can connect with you on the social platforms as well. So
thank you.
thank you again for being here, Rachel. Thank you for watching and for continuing to support this series that I'm doing. If you have found it helpful or think it will be helpful for others, please share it. Again, if you would like to be a special guest, I would love to have you. I have not shared this yet, but I have something super exciting in store for all of my guests that I'll be sharing at a later date. And so I think that you'll want to be a part of that. So I would love to get you involved. Again, hashtag 100 days, 100 emotions. And until then, I'll be back tomorrow with another emotion. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you.